Skull and Bones is an upcoming action-adventure video game that is being developed by Ubisoft Singapore and published by Ubisoft. The project was announced back in 2017 and since then has been the subject of countless delays and reworks. Let's break down all the delays, the new version of the game, and when we can expect the game to release. As always, all the sources will be linked in the description below, so make sure to check those out and support those original writers. Also, make sure to follow me on Twitter at FONCT2, and with that out of the way, let's get into what happened to Skull and Bones. Let's start with the development timeline for the game and all the delays that have plagued the project. The reveal for Skull and Bones was at E3 2017. Ubisoft released a cinematic trailer to announce the game. At the event, the team announced the game would also be single player and have a full single player campaign, but could also be played with friends as a multiplayer game where players could work together or against other teams of multiplayer parties. And this idea intrigued a lot of fans that this wouldn't be a multiplayer only game. And at the event itself, the team was showing off very early pre-alpha gameplay, so it seemed like the final release would still be a few years away, but Ubisoft at the end of the presentation actually said the game would be launching sometime in fall of 2018, so a little over a year after the time of the reveal event. And fans could actually go to the Skull and Bones website to sign up for the beta for a chance to play the game early. And even though reception was overall good for the project, there were issues fans had with the game, including no actual boarding mechanic. In the gameplay they showed, it just cut to a short cutscene and then you were back on your own ship after taking down an enemy ship. And in this aspect, it seemed like a regression compared to Assassin's Creed Black Flag, which was the main inspiration for this title and actually why Ubisoft decided to make a pirate game that used a lot of what they learned when making Assassin's Creed and wanted to give it its own full-fledged game. There are other problems too, but that's sort of outside the scope of this video, and Ubisoft also announced the game would be a games as a service, so it would have microtransactions called the Keepers of the Code, and none of that is too surprising given the current gaming landscape, especially with Ubisoft. And then in Ubisoft's full year report in 2019, they announced Ubisoft Singapore needed more time to develop the game. They said, quote, "Ubisoft has decided to give itself more time to develop Skull and Bones to offer players an even more engaging experience. Skull and Bones is now scheduled for release in 2019 through 2020. And the interpretation of this date most likely meant the team wanted a fiscal 2019 release, which I've mentioned countless times before, but if you don't know, fiscal years are a little bit different than what we consider a traditional year. So the release window for this project was going to fall now somewhere between April of 2019 to March of 2020. And for fans who had been following the project, this didn't seem too surprising. Very few details were given about the project, and marketing never really picked up to remind fans that this game was coming. Instead, it let itself slowly over time be forgotten. But for the fans who were waiting for the project, it was nice to hear that Ubisoft wasn't canceling it, but instead giving the team more time to make the game the right way. Then Ubisoft announced again in the next year-end report in May of 2019 that Skull and Bones would be delayed again, and this time the team gave a shorter description and only gave a single sentence in their year-end report. Ubisoft said, quote, "The release of Skull and Bones has been postponed to after 2019-2020. And right away, these delays started to be more alarming. Mind you, this game was delayed in May of 2019, and with their last release date, they would have still had a little less than a year to develop the project for a March 2020 release, and they knew even in May that this wouldn't be enough time to finish the project, which is troubling to say the least that a year wouldn't be enough time after this game has already been in development for countless years through countless delays. And the team at Ubisoft Singapore took to Twitter to release a development video update as well at the same date, but they share a lot of the same sentiment as the other post. They need more development time, they will not be showing off the game at E3 2019, and the team is doing all of this to make the quality of the game great. And the last piece of information given around this time is the team said they have no public dates for a beta or release, which is not surprising considering all the delays and probably behind the scenes problems that were happening with the game. And the game was relatively quiet again until September of 2020. The team gave a bigger blog post for another delay of Skull and Bones. I'm going to read the entire thing so I don't miss anything, but the post says, quote, "First and foremost, thank you to our fans for showing tremendous patience. We know you've been waiting for news, so I'm thrilled to confirm this. Production on Skull and Bones has been in full swing with a new vision. Our teams at Ubisoft Singapore are fully committed to launching the game as well as supporting it for many years to come. While our game won't be present at Ubisoft Forward on September 10th, we are currently working on plans to present Skull and Bones sometime in the future. It'll be worth the wait." Many of you have been wondering why we've had to postpone our launch. The answer is not that we simply needed more time. We've dreamt something bigger for Skull and Bones, and these ambitions naturally come with bigger challenges. These difficulties resulted in necessary delays for our game. Critical questions needed to be addressed over the past several months, such as how do we modernize the classic pirate fantasy? How do we ensure more immersive and visceral experience? How do we create cool and memorable moments in-game? For most of these questions to be answered, it was clear that we needed more development time. As Skull and Bones evolved from its original idea to what it is now, it was also necessary to have some fresh eyes join the team. I was one of those people when I joined as Skull and Bones creative director a little over 2 years ago. I've been part of the game's core team that led many of the talented developers at Ubisoft Singapore. Since then, many new talents have joined our global crew. From our teams in Ubisoft Berlin, Chengdu, Kyiv, Paris, and the Philippines. It is truly a team effort. The dedication and passion of our developers continue to fuel our drive to make Skull and Bones something all of us can be proud of. Our confidence in each other's talent is what motivates us to push Skull and Bones towards the finish line and beyond. We're proud of the work we've done, and we hope you will be too when you see more of Skull and Bones at our comeback next year. Until then, on behalf of everyone in the Skull and Bones team around the world, keep safe and we will see you again soon. And this gives us a lot of new information. The post was written by the new creative director on the team, and as they said, it did change in the past 2 years. And with this new creative director, they brought a new vision to the game, and it seems like development shifted around that time, right around when we started seeing the first delays, and the game must have shifted. And because we haven't seen too much of it, it makes sense they're trying to keep it as secretive as possible. It also seems that Ubisoft agrees with the new vision for this team and is even allowing Ubisoft Berlin and other studios to help co-develop the game. So it sounds like Ubisoft has more faith in this project again, and they're really pushing it forward for a release. And around this time as well, the game is now set for release in the next fiscal year, which was revealed in a conference call portion of the Ubisoft earnings report by the Ubisoft CEO. Which now means a release for the project will happen sometime between April of 2021 and March of 2022, and hopefully this is the last delay for the project. And this new release fits in perfect with what the team said in their post that we will be seeing more of the game in 2021. So it makes sense that marketing would have to start to pick up if we are going to see the game within the next year. So what should we expect from the title moving forward? I would assume this is the last delay for the project, and most likely the delays around the project earlier were a result of behind the scenes issues we will never be given full details on. Ubisoft allocating different studios to help with the project as well seems like a good sign for the new vision of the game. Also, the update the studio gave on the project is the most transparency that's ever been given since the reveal, so I hope that the marketing will start to pick up this summer around the project and we could see the game released this winter on all the normal platforms. I know it was originally announced for the PS4 and Xbox One, but hopefully it will come to the new current generation of consoles as well, so the PS5 and Xbox Series X, along with the new last generation of consoles and of course PC. And the best part about this is hopefully we don't have to wait too much longer to see more of the game and how much different it is than when we first saw it in 2017. And for the most part, that's what happened to Skull and Bones and where I'm going to end this video. Make sure to like and share, subscribe for weekly gaming news, and I will see you guys in the next one.